Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Today we are stripping away the romance of the beautiful game and looking strictly at the machinery.
Right, the biological machinery of the players.
Exactly, and the digital machinery that's trying to understand them. We're analyzing a paper that tries to solve one of the oldest problems in sports science.
It's the classic coach's dilemma, isn't it?
It is. Knowing when an athlete is actually tired versus when they just, look tired.
Or when the data says they should be tired, but they swear up and down they feel fine. It's that disconnect between the objective output and the subjective experience.
And that disconnect is exactly what we're digging into today. We're looking at a study from the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine.
Published in 2024.
Yeah, volume 23, pages 744 to 753. The title is Prediction of Perceived Exertion Ratings in National-Level Soccer Players, Using Wearable Sensor Data and Machine Learning Techniques.
It's a real mouthful. The author list is a joint squad of computer scientists and sports physios, Robert Leppich, Philipp Kunz, André Bauer, and a few others.
A dense paper, for sure, but the mission seems pretty straightforward.
Oh, it is. Can we take all the objective data, the GPS, the heart rate, all of it, and use AI to predict the subjective data?
Can a computer guess how hard a player feels like they worked?
That's the question.
So to set the stage, we need to talk about two key concepts: external load and internal load.
Right.
My understanding is that external load is basically the physics of it. How far you ran, how fast you went.
That's it. It's the mechanical work. It's objective. A 10-kilometer run is a 10-kilometer run no matter how you feel about it.
But internal load is, what, the cost of that work?
Exactly. The physiological and the psychological cost. How much your heart rate spiked, how stressed you feel, that's the internal load.
And that's the tricky part, because the same external load, say a 5K run, is going to feel completely different if I'm fresh versus if I'm getting over the flu.
Precisely. The cost changes. And for decades, the best way to measure that internal load hasn't been a fancy blood test. It's just been a simple question.
The RPE scale, right, rating of perceived exertion.
Yep.
Usually the Borg scale. You just ask the athlete, on a scale of 0 to 10, how hard was that?
It seems almost primitive compared to all the high-tech vests these players wear.
It does, but the paper argues it's still the best holistic measure we have. It captures everything: muscle soreness, mental fatigue, even the humidity, all in one single number.
But that's only if the data is good.
And that's the big if. That's the problem this paper is trying to solve. Humans are, unreliable data points.
Players forget to log their scores.
They forget, or there's a compliance issue. If I want to play on Saturday, I might rate a brutal session as a 3 to look good for the manager.
So the goal here is to create a kind of a gap filler or a validation tool.
Exactly. If the player forgets or if their score looks a bit fishy, we want an AI to look at the sensor data and say, hold on, based on your heart rate, that felt more like an 8.
Okay, so let's look at how they built this thing. This wasn't a lab study with college kids on treadmills.
No. They tracked 26 professional male soccer players from a German third division team. And for a whole season, too. The 2019-2020 season.
Which is so important for this kind of modeling.
Why is that? Why the whole season?
Well, machine learning needs variance. It's hungry for it. If you only track a team for 2 weeks, you might just get a light recovery phase.
So the model would never learn what a truly hard day looks like.
Exactly. By getting a full season, they captured everything. The preseason grind, the midseason matches, the tapering periods, the whole spectrum.
And the data haul is just massive. I'm seeing 5,402 training sessions.
And 732 match observations on top of that.
Let's talk tech. They use the Polar Team Pro system. So we're talking high-fidelity heart rate, accelerometers measuring movement 100 times a second.
100 hertz, yeah. And GPS updating 10 times a second. It is a fire hose of raw data.
But you can't just, feed raw GPS coordinates into a neural network and hope for the best.
No, you can't. The researchers had to do some serious feature engineering.
They took those raw signals and calculated 174 distinct parameters per session.
174.
That feels like overkill. What are they even calculating to get to that number?
Well, it's the basics like total distance and max heart rate, but then they broke everything down into zones.
Okay.
Time spent in heart rate zone 1, zone 2, all the way up. Distance covered in speed zone 1, which is walking, all the way up to sprinting.
And there was that player load metric, too.
Player load, yeah. It's a measure of the rate of change in acceleration. So basically, it's how much you're getting shaken around, the mechanical stress.
So they have this enormous spreadsheet, 174 columns, thousands of rows. And then they set up a kind of battle.
A battle of the models, yeah.
Traditional machine learning versus deep learning. For anyone listening who hears these terms thrown around, what's the actual difference here?
Think of traditional machine learning like random forest as a very, very sophisticated decision tree. It follows logical rules.
If this, then that.
Basically, if speed is high and heart rate is high, then exertion is high. They're transparent. Deep learning, though, uses artificial neural networks. It's more like a brain.
So it can find more complex patterns.
Incredibly complex, nonlinear patterns, but it's a black box and takes a ton of computing power.
Now, before they did that, they had to fix an issue with the data using something called SMOT.
Yes, SMOT, synthetic minority oversampling technique.
And this highlights a real issue in sports data, doesn't it? Most training sessions are just average.
That's the reality. You can't go all out every day, so most days are a medium effort and RPE of 4, 5, or 6. The real extremes, the 1s or 10s, are rare.
And if you train an AI on mostly 5s, it just learns to guess 5 every time.
It gets lazy, because statistically it'll be right most of the time. SMOT basically creates new synthetic data points for those rare cases.
It's creating fake 10s that look mathematically like the real ones.
Exactly. Just to give the model more examples to learn from, it balances the scales so the model actually learns what exhaustion looks like.
They also trimmed the fat a bit, dropped from 174 features down to 108.
Right. They looked for high correlations. If total distance and total steps are telling you the same thing, you just throw one out. You want the cleanest signal possible.
Okay, so the data is prepped, the models are trained, they use 5-fold cross-validation to make sure the results weren't a fluke.
Very rigorous stuff.
This next part of the paper was, for me, the most insightful. They looked at which features actually predicted how tired a player felt.
And it turns out it's a real cocktail of fatigue. There's no single magic bullet.
No one number that tells the whole story.
But there was a clear number one predictor. The one that accounted for the biggest piece of the pie was maximal heart rate.
That's kind of reassuring, isn't it? With all the fancy GPS and accelerometers, the peak stress on your heart is still the loudest signal.
The heart doesn't lie. If you hit 190 beats per minute, you're going to feel it. It's the physiological ceiling.
What was number 2?
Number 2 was maximal acceleration, so those explosive starts and stops that tax the nervous system. But number 3, that was the curveball.
This is the one that really stood out to me. The third most important predictor was the total distance covered in the speed zone of 10 to 13 kilometers per hour.
Right, 10 to 13.
That's a jog. A fast trot, maybe.
Yeah.
It is not sprinting. So why on earth is jogging distance a better predictor of fatigue than, say, high-speed running?
It feels counterintuitive, right? But think about the flow of a soccer match. You don't sprint for 90 minutes, you sprint and then you recover.
But you rarely get to just stand still.
You never stand still. That 10 to 13 kilometer per hour zone is the grind. It's the recovery run where you're still tracking an opponent. It represents the volume of work. It's the inability to stop that drains you.
That is a huge takeaway. We focus so much on high-intensity intervals, but this suggests all that garbage yardage is actually a huge driver of how you feel.
It's the cumulative load. It's what wears you down over time.
Okay, so with these predictors identified, who won the battle of the models? Did the massive deep learning brain win?
Technically, yes. The deep learning model did take the belt. It achieved a mean absolute error, an MAE of 1.08.
So on that 0 to 10 scale, the computer's guess was, on average, off by about 1 point.
Which is incredibly accurate for a subjective feeling.
That's amazing.
It is very impressive. But the runner-up was a traditional model called Exertion.
Extremely randomized tree.
That's the one. And its error was 1.15.
So the difference is tiny, less than 1/10 of a point.
And here's the so what of the whole study. That deep learning model is a monster. It has 353 million parameters. It needs serious computing power.
High-end GPUs, a cloud server.
All of it. The Exertion model. It's lightweight. You could run it on a decent laptop right in the locker room.
So it's that classic trade-off.
Yeah.
Pure accuracy versus practical utility.
Exactly. And the authors argue that for most teams, the Exertion model is actually the better choice. You don't need a whole data center to run it. That 0.07 gain in accuracy just isn't worth the cost.
But there was one area where both models struggled a bit.
Ah, yes. Match day.
They were great at predicting training RPE, but the error went up for matches. Why is game day so much harder to predict?
2 reasons. Sample size and chaos. They had over 5,000 training sessions, but only 732 match files. That's a pretty small data set for an AI.
And the chaos.
Matches are emotional. The stress of a penalty kick, the crowd noise, the adrenaline, those affect how you feel, but they don't show up on a GPS tracker.
So the psychological stress.
Right. The sensors measure the body, but they can't measure the pressure of the moment.
That makes perfect sense. Now, I want to touch on a specific point the authors made about previous studies. They said some older papers got even better accuracy, but they might have been flawed.
This is a crucial point about generalizability. Those previous studies often included player ID or age as an input for the model.
So they basically told the computer this data belongs to Hans.
Exactly. And if the computer knows it's Hans, and it knows Hans usually rates sessions as a 5, it just learns to guess 5. It learns the person, not the physiology.
So it's overfitting to that specific data set.
It is. The Leppich study we're looking at here removed all those personal identifiers. It was a pure data approach.
Which means their model is generalizable.
Right. You could sign a new player tomorrow, strap the vest on him, and the model would work instantly. It's a huge advantage.
So let's bring this down to the pitch. As a coach, how do I actually use this? I'm not replacing conversations with my players with a laptop.
No, absolutely not. You use it for discrepancy analysis. The value isn't in the number itself, it's in the gap. The gap between the prediction and the player's reality.
Okay, so walk me through a scenario. The computer says a session was a 6, but my player tells me it was a 9.
That's a massive red flag.
Yeah.
The objective work was moderate, but the athlete felt it was brutal. Why? The sensors can't see that his baby was up all night or that he's fighting off an illness.
Or that he's stressed about a contract negotiation.
All of it. That discrepancy forces a conversation. It tells you something is wrong with the human, not just the athlete.
It's a prompt. Hey, the data says you shouldn't be this tired. What's going on?
Exactly. And then there's the other scenario, the one every coach wants to see. The computer predicts a brutal 9.
But the player reports a 6.
They handled the load better than expected. That is the very definition of improved fitness. It proves your training program is working. The player is getting more resilient.
So the AI becomes this diagnostic tool. It gives you a baseline for what the player should feel so you can better interpret what they actually feel.
It validates the subjective. It proves that feelings aren't just random, they're real biological signals.
As we wrap this up, I just keep coming back to that finding about the 10 to 13 kilometer per hour zone.
The grind.
The grind. We live in a world of highlight reels, but the data says the silent killer of your energy is just keeping on moving.
It's the density of the work. It's a great lesson for anyone who trains, not just pro athletes. Don't underestimate the toll of that moderate stuff.
And also the fact that max heart rate was still #1. After all this tech, all these gyroscopes and sensors, the most honest signal is still just the beat of the heart.
It's a bit poetic, isn't it? Technology changes, but the biology stays the same. The cardiovascular response is the ultimate truth teller.
For those of you who want to dive into the technical details, the full breakdown of the neural network, the paper is Prediction of Perceived Exertion Ratings. You know the one.
You can find it in the Journal of Sports Science and Medicine, Volume 23. It's a heavy read, but for the data nerds out there, it is absolute gold.
That's it for this deep dive. If you enjoyed this look under the hood of sports performance, make sure you're following the channel and turn on your notifications. We've got more deep dives coming up you won't want to miss. Thanks for listening.